Hello, my name is Warner Wen, and I'm Global X's Director of Research in Canada. Global X is a worldwide leader in thematic investing, a forward-looking investment approach that seeks to identify powerful macro-level trends and the investments that stand to benefit from the materialization of those trends. In this video, I will discuss one of the most relevant themes we are seeing today in the world, CleanTech. This term describes a collection of disruptive technologies that seek to mitigate or inhibit climate change. Clean tech extends beyond renewable energy production, like solar and wind power, to also include energy efficiency and storage, electrified infrastructure, and emissions reduction and removal technologies. As we will discuss more in detail, we believe that advancements in these technologies and the widespread adoption can meaningfully contribute to climate change mitigation efforts on a global scale. We also believe that profit and planet can coexist, that leading firms in the clean tech revolution can possibly see outsized returns by capitalizing on this movement. The need to effectively tackle climate change is more imminent than ever before. According to a monthly report by European Union's Earth Observation Program, this past November of 2020 was the hottest ever recorded, at almost 1 degree Celsius warmer than the average between 1981 and 2010. This decade will almost certainly be the hottest on record, with the warmest 6 years all happening since 2015. The impact of uncontrolled climate change could be devastating. As you can see on the slide here, warming of 4 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels by 2100 could cause a 10% reduction in global economic output. And because of rising water levels from the melting Arctic ice cap, up to 800 million coastal residents could be at risk of displacement. When we look at billion-dollar natural disasters in the United States, they occurred 15 times on average per year over the past 3 years, significantly more than the average 6.2 experienced annually from 1980 through 2017. 30% of the global population faces lethal temperatures for at least 20 days a year. All of these are reasons why governments and the private sector are implementing aggressive initiatives or making commitments to achieve carbon neutrality over the next few decades. Core to slowing or reversing climate change is reducing our carbon emissions. Over 75% of warming comes from carbon dioxide or CO2 emissions, and humans are responsible for 47% of such emissions since the start of the Industrial Revolution. Governments around the world are leaning on regulatory policies to help reduce carbon emissions. The European Green Deal, for example, is a set of policy initiatives by the European Commission with the overarching goal of making Europe the first climate-neutral continent by 2050. Closer to home, here in Canada, we have draft legislation submitted by the federal government in November 2020 to make the country carbon neutral also by 2050. In Asia, China, Japan, and Korea have also made similar commitments to reduce emissions. At the center of most of these plans is the aggressive adoption of clean tech, which is essential to meeting carbon neutrality goals and will require significant investments. A scenario presented by the International Renewable Energy Agency, or IRENA, estimates that $110 trillion of cumulative global investments would keep warming within an acceptable level, with about 80% of that going to clean technologies. Transitioning to renewable energy sources is a core tenet of climate change mitigation plans. According to some estimates, substituting fossil fuels like coal, oil, and natural gas with clean alternative energy sources could reduce emissions by 52% of what is needed to adequately limit warming. In recent years, we have already seen clean energy sources' share of global electricity production rise significantly. Much of the growth can be attributed to the rapid decrease in costs of renewables like solar and wind. We expect this growth to continue as economies of scale, market forces, and carbon taxes drive down renewables' relative costs even further. Between now and 2050, investments in wind and solar capacity could reach an average $1 trillion per year to effectively scale renewable electricity. Despite the growth prospect of renewables, These alternative energy sources currently only represent 11% of the global energy mix. Part of the challenge is direct electrification. Places like buildings, industrials, and transportation are lagging in adoption of traditional renewables because they are yet to have full electrification in order to use renewable electricity. With that in mind, if we drastically improve and expand the electric infrastructure and energy efficiency technologies, emissions could be reduced by over 40% of what is needed to keep warming within tolerable levels. For example, electric heat pumps in buildings use 1 kilowatt-hour of input electricity to generate 3 kilowatt-hour of heat, or in other words, are 300% efficient. Traditional gas boilers can only achieve 90% efficiency. Another example is electric vehicles, where electric engines are 3 to 4 times more efficient than internal combustion engines. Speaking of electric vehicles, battery capacity is often an important consideration for clean energy and extends beyond the use case of EVs. Renewables like wind and solar are variable energy sources in that the amount of energy they produce fluctuates depending on weather conditions. Stationary storage solutions like batteries can store excess energy for future use and offer more stable supply. The rapid decline in battery costs can help further expand total energy storage capacity. Finally, smart electric grids not only make demand-based energy allocation possible, but also allow businesses and homeowners to actively contribute to energy efficiency. They can monitor their own usage with greater access to data, or they can automatically sell stored or generated power back to the grid. Clean energy also includes technologies that enable carbon capture, use, and storage, or CCUS, and carbon dioxide removal, or CDR. Once considered fringe climate change mitigation methods, these processes are seeing wider acceptance as effective complements to conventional interventions. We should point out that CCUS adoption is still in early stage. Currently, there are 18 large-scale CCUS facilities around the world, which can capture up to 34 million tons of CO2 a year. Like many early-stage technologies, high cost is the primary inhibitor of CCUS and CDR adoption, although industry estimates claim project costs could decrease by over 40% in the early 2020s. As costs decline and milestone dates for emissions targets come closer, we expect CCUS and CDR adoption to rise. To wrap up this short presentation, I want to clear up a misconception that climate change is inevitable or unfixable. The truth is, with impressive advancements in CleanTech, the world can shift away from fossil fuel dependency by leveraging low-cost renewable energy sources to stop carbon emissions. At GlobalX, we believe CleanTech is still in its early adopters phase along the proverbial S-curve for innovation adoption. This means that we are still early in the proliferation of CleanTech, potentially offering investors an attractive entry point for this long-term theme. For more information about CleanTech and thematic investing, please visit globalxetfs.com/research. Thank you for watching.